welcome back to another episode of Developing the Leader Within. And today I am so excited to have a special guest. And the month of July is special to me because we are actually exhibiting the international scene. And all the way from the UAE, we have Trisha Chapman. She is the founder and managing partner of Impressivecv. Trisha, good day to you and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute honor to be invited on your show. Thank you.
Oh, it's great. I'm excited because the international scene seldom gets the praise and the highlight, but today is very special, talking about specifically leadership and career planning. Now, in the Navy, I was fortunate to have 20 years as a career counselor, and so I know how important this is to individuals seeking jobs, looking for jobs, and I'm excited about the topic. But before we get into all of that good stuff and all of your knowledge and all of that, let's hear a little bit about you.
Sure. Well, I am from Australia, as you mentioned. I am Australian, but as you mentioned, living in Dubai. I have been here for about 5 years. Just on 5 years. I actually am a nurse by background and then transitioned into managing my own business where I'm focusing on CV writing, career development, job seeking advice, the whole kit and caboodle, I guess. And I've built a very strong team around me who have got an excellent HR background. And then I have sort of boomed or blossomed quite rapidly. Especially with the expat life, everyone, comes from different backgrounds, wanting different advice here and there. So, yeah, that's where I'm at the moment.
That is wonderful. And hey, I surely can appreciate that. Like I said, having that background and knowing how important it is to plan your career, not to go into it hastily or without a plan, but because we know where that leads. I'm interested in your background and your knowledge and now your expertise with your company. What do you think some people should be doing when it comes to career planning?
Well, I guess first of all, and I hope it doesn't go against your advice, but don't be so set on one thing entirely. There are so many different transferable skills and as times and situations changes, and I'm a classic example of going from a nurse to a completely new career and establishing myself completely as a different industry expert. I think it's important to just follow your heart and find out what works for you and what doesn't, but then build a network around you to be able to support those goals. And
that's great advice. And no, it doesn't go against mine. It's exactly what I would tell somebody. In regards to people starting out, you're a great example, right? Because you say you went from nurse to now what you do is actually helping people create a good spotlight on themselves, on their high points, and what they can bring to a company. And I know that we often advise folks, hey, be the solution, right? Be the solution.
Exactly.
What can you tell us about the solution thing?
Absolutely. Yes, you've hit the nail on the head, as they say. So you really need to be making sure that over time you are collecting your achievements, your workplace achievements, what value added that you have brought to an organization. And in terms of maybe a supportive function. And I think it's not just, the last 3 or 6 months of your career, but it's focusing on things that you have done even outside of an organization that would, bring the value or be a key factor as to why you should be hired or what you could contribute to a team. So it's important to be tracking things as you go along.
Yeah, I love that because one thing that did translate, and there's seldom things that translate from the military to civilian. But one of the things that do translate is exactly what you just said. We have an annual review. In that annual review, we love to laud all the things we've done right through that year. And I was always teaching my sailors to keep it and have it handy. because those things are the ones that translate to your next position. Now, in the military, it's funny. We stay in the same company, but we switch offices or departments every 3 years, if you could say that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And also in bringing a solution, those prove those things. So, so it takes communication, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think solution-orientated leadership, I think that becomes an important approach, is in terms of if your leader has got a solution-orientated direction or thought process, it filters down onto those employees to start getting them to actively think this way. And I think that we need to be trying to focus on what's working and what isn't, even in career planning or even in the workplace. And then try to, discuss internally with yourself, what are your weak points to be able to make it work. I think this is what hones in on solution orientated, what's working and what isn't, and then how can we fix those problems, whether it's career about yourself or workplace dynamics, to be able to then resolve the mishaps.
Yes. When you were saying all of that, I was thinking how I used to plan my next year's goals, and communication between the leader, myself, or myself and someone that maybe was in my team was so critical, because that finding out what was working and not is probably it's very important. You think about folks that continue to hammer out things that don't work, and it goes the whole year, and you're like, where did all the progress
Exactly.
go? Where did all the all the benefits go from this year? And you figured out that at the end of the year that you were still banging out all this thing that didn't work. So
Exactly.
communication is critical, and I love that you highlight what's working and not. Um, and that also takes communication from the leaders, right?
Absolutely. And I think it's important to touch on whether it's your direct report or indirect report. The communication still needs to happen no matter what level you're at. And there's various forms of it, but it needs to be not only efficient, but effective as well. So you can bark orders and deliver communication no matter, to the cows come home. But is it received or processed? So I think communication, it doesn't just stop there. It needs to be received and put into action. And then as a result of the action, you're monitoring the progress.
And
Yeah.
yeah, the monitoring it goes back to that one instance I talk about, the evaluation that we do every year. What are some suggestions that you may have, for monitoring?
Check-ins, simple check-ins, follow-ups. Again, whether it's your career or not, but like a project planner, for example, you could just put in a simple Excel sheet, monthly check-ins. Have you completed that? What do I need to be able to achieve that? Or even having an accountability buddy. I know it might sound really silly, but ask someone to look, these are my lists of what I would like to achieve. Can you hold me accountable for this month or for 3 months? Reaching out to people and putting a support network in to be able to, make sure that you are being held accountable if you can't do it on your own using alternative tools. I think these days as well, with so many technology, so many apps available, you can plug in, you've got a goal or a task to do, and apps remind you. They can automate things to come up, be sent to your emails or text messages. There's so many digital tools now to be able to make sure that you are being held accountable for tasks that you've put in place.
That's so important. We call them battle buddies in the military,
Okay.
but the premise is the same, right? Some sort of something like a mentor, mentee, and you could just be accountability partners, right? I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
That's definitely something that will help you. And the technology. Oh, perfect point there, because if you go on an Apple device, let's say you go to the App Store or even on an Android, you're going to have, I don't know if I can say millions and be right, but I'll be close. There's so many apps out there to facilitate good progression during the day, making sure you're on top of things. You
Exactly.
talked about an Excel spreadsheet. I use that myself for this podcast, right? That I have that going to keep me on track, color coded, who's good,
Yep.
who's pending, who said Rogered up.
Exactly.
And so it does work. And I love that. Monitoring by simple pen and paper works.
Absolutely, definitely. I think we overcomplicate things too much, but I think if you're not around or involved in these types of activities, then it's difficult to implement. Versus once you get higher up the ladder and involved in more and more team projects or bigger scale projects, it's not until then that you're exposed. And I think this is maybe what's lacking in terms of the junior and I'm quite young myself, I know, but I do have a team, and I'm conscious I've got a couple of ladies who are older than me, and I still need to make sure that they're kept abreast of what's happening, as is what my younger 20-year-olds are. So I think it's really important as a leader to make sure that everyone is aware of what tools are available, and to then expose those people who aren't to how to maximize and be efficient in what they can and can't do.
Yeah, I love that, because I often say you can't give what you don't have. So,
Yeah,
so the leaders have to be on the up and up on the things that will make it easier for your teams. That is so critical,
absolutely.
and because it
Absolutely.
helps you align, right? Align to what's going on, and
Exactly.
more seamlessly. So, talking about alignment and things of that nature. We create a structure for folks. Usually, this is what we have for this week. This is what we have for this month. Hopefully, you're having strategic type meetings. They go, hey, 6 months down the road, maybe at the end of the year, you're looking at this, that, and the other. But how does career planning come into play when it comes to alignment and structure?
I think strategy is a core pillar that every business owner or every business should build around. I think strategy is if you have a clear focus and clear strategic vision of where you want to go, you can then put in place the goals, mini goals even, beforehand to be able to reach that goal. I think it's important to be aware of commercial acumen, so making sure that you are, familiar with what needs to be done, terminology, so that you can speak business language to be able to facilitate, your strategy. You may be a B2B or a B2C or your own personal goals. Being that if you are strategic in what you are planning, you can then build and use the resources around you to be able to get to that goal. I think that you need to be comfortable in initiating new things. Again, in career planning, stepping out of your comfort zone. I think that's something that's really important. But be strategic in doing so. Does it have a purpose as to why you're doing this? Otherwise, you're a little bit left-centered. Everything's not aligning. I hope I'm making sense, but
Oh,
it's my
yes,
thought
yes,
process.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, because I remember one of the things that I used to teach, not only sailors, but even when I came out into the corporate world, when I would gather my team, one of the first things we spoke about was strategy. It didn't matter what time I came into their life in the year. It mattered the day we talked about strategy, because I used to ask them, what is the corporate vision? And you would get like,
Right.
deers in a headlight, right?
What's corporate
What?
vision mean?
What's the corporate strategic goals? What are the department strategic goals? Do they align? Because
Exactly.
sometimes your
Exactly.
misalignment, and we were talking about alignment, your misalignment comes from their misalignment, and you have to
Then the
get
goal's
those right.
lost.
Right. You have to
Yep.
get those right. That was perfect how you stated that. Because whatever you do, and I always said this, whatever you do at your level has to feed into the next level up.
That's
And if
right. It's a
it doesn't,
pipeline.
then there is a problem.
Absolutely. And I think that it's really important because it places, it makes sure that the decision making process and judgment is appropriate for that situation when you understand the strategy.
Definitely, definitely. That
Yeah.
the strategic aspect to career planning has always been I think the most fun for me, because it was where we became more artistic in how we executed the plan for the year. And everyone had their strength, right? They bring their own strength, but I always told my team, I said, if at the end of the year you can prove that everything you did fed into the strategic goal plans for the
Company.
company,
Yeah.
you can't lose out.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Definitely. I think the hardest part, though, in terms of business, is having the alignment between commercial, between marketing, between clinical, for example. And if you don't have the same goals, common goal or common objective, then that's when the strategy is not working. So
Yeah,
I think it's important to be able to align everything together for a common vision.
right. Yeah, I think of a car, right? A car, you see it on the outside, it's nice, shiny, it's going down the road. But if you go underneath and you see what the axle's doing, what the muffler's, you might get a different story, right?
Yeah,
This
yeah,
thing might be,
exactly.
it might be about to break down, 500 kilometers down the road. Yeah,
Absolutely.
so I love that. And career planning, and just to highlight what you said, because I love how
Mm,
you did solutions oriented,
mm,
is key. You already have to know that you're bringing the solution. But one
yeah,
thing that I've advised some folks is that, how have you done your homework enough to know if you're bringing a solution? Because everybody can say, like, I have leadership background, so I come and I say I could lead your teams,
mm,
and everybody's like, okay, how? Yeah,
yeah,
do you even know what kind of teams we have, right?
yeah,
And so you have to do your homework, you have to do some research, so you can know whether you are bringing a solution to that company. You spoke about communication, and the engagement between the levels to get feedback. That is that.
exactly.
If you don't get feedback, oh my goodness, how can you even progress day to day, right? You mentioned monitoring. Perfect example is all the things that we have at our disposal. But leaders, you got to be on it. You got to be on it
Yeah,
to give it to your
definitely.
teams. Alignment within the structure, and lastly, strategy. What a bunch of nuggets in one breath. Uh,
Yeah, I've put all the big guns out.
yeah. What a bunch, and so much to consume. Um, what would you advise
Mm,
folks that are venturing out, especially now today, right? We're all in some murky water with this,
mm, mm,
with
mm,
all that has been going on around us and things of the
mm.
nature. And as people start to begin their new normal, however it may come out for them, what
Yep.
would you advise them, looking for work now?
Mm. Good question. To be honest, I've had a lot of podcasts on this, and especially being in the industry now, I think it's really, really important to focus on your transferable skills. So you may have a fantastic degree, MBA, or maybe whatever you're expert at, but it doesn't mean that you can't use these skills in another domain. So spend some time, and there's plenty of online personality tests or self-reflection type questions that bring about what you're maybe weak at, and then you can invest time in fixing these to be able to bring a broader portfolio to a different role that you wouldn't probably usually consider. I think companies now more than ever are more open to those being placed in a role that they wouldn't normally consider. I think also there are so many opportunities for higher management. I think around 13% of CEOs have resigned the last 12 months, which is huge opportunities globally to be able to move up the ranks. So I think that being in a more digital workplace, it doesn't mean that you're bound to one location. So if you can fix your weaknesses, work on transferable skills, it opens up a whole new domain of where you can focus your attention to. That would be my piece of advice. Find out what your weaknesses are, work on these, and then apply them to perhaps a different industry that you would like to consider.
That's wonderful, because there's a lot of fear in going from one place to another, right? We're trying to find a place we could lay our eggs and just, ride it out to the sunset. I was fortunate as a military person to be able to do that, but not everybody is. And so that advice is so key, especially when things are so dynamic and can change at a whim's notice. So thank you for that. Hey, Trisha, if anybody needed to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
Very good question, my dear. Right, get a pen and paper, because it is going to be info@impressivecv.com. You can drop me an email, or you can follow me on LinkedIn, Trisha Chapman.
Outstanding. Well, I'm going to have that there on the bottom of the video so everybody can get that information. And so I want to thank you so much, Trisha, for being with us, sharing your expertise. Folks, if you have any CV questions, if you have any career planning questions, please reach out to Trisha. The information's at the bottom of the video. And I wish you all safety and success to you. Thank you, Trisha, for coming on.
You are most welcome. Keep in touch.